All right, Hans Temestode here with my guy, Breadman. How you feeling today?
Good, man. I'm heading out in the gym in this cold weather, man.
All right, man. I find it ironic that I get you the day after the Eagles lose. I ain't gonna say nothing, but ironic though.
I mean, they 12-3, man. I didn't expect them to run the whole table. They was just on a 10-game winning streak, so it happens. It's part of life.
All right, we're gonna let it rock, man. But all right, so let's jump right into it. Usyk versus Fury 2. Great fight once again. What was your thoughts heading into it, man? Did you think Usyk would pull it off again, or did you lean toward Fury?
I did think Usyk would pull it off again, but I was kind of scared they was gonna rob him, man. I ain't gonna
Mm.
lie. I didn't want to I don't like talking about that too much.
Yeah.
But I thought if it went to the scorecards, it would favor Fury because everything was lined up for Fury. The promotion was behind them. They was publicly supporting them. They didn't even hide it. It was just like we team Fury, you know what I mean? And the last fight, I didn't think it should have been a split decision, and it was. So I kind of was just like, man, everything is lined up. But plus, I was pleasantly surprised that that the scorecards was fair and they gave it to the right guy, even though the commentary was just all pro Fury. But the judges got it right. So that's not a norm in boxing. So I'm glad they got it right.
When you looked at the fight overall, was there anything that Fury could have did, or is it just the case of nah, man, Usyk is he's just a better
I
fighter.
mean, sometimes you run into a guy that's just a little bit better than you are, and just happened that you guys have around the same birthday. And and you can't help when you was born. And sometimes a guy just come along and just a game of inches. So it's a little teeny things. But I think the biggest thing, two things that just stand out to me besides the technical stuff. Um, Usyk's gas tank is just a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's hard for a 280-pound man to have the cardio of a 220-pound man. It
Mhm.
just is. And his gas tank is just a little bit better. And his punches affect Fury more than Fury's punches affect him.
Mm.
He got a he's more durable. He got a better chin. And when he hits Fury, his punches have a bigger effect. And I just think that just separates him, despite the fact that he got probably one of the best clutch chains that I ever seen. Late in the fight, if he's down, or if it's close, he really knows how to come through. The last quarter, the last third of a fight.
Yeah. Um, you look at the heavyweight landscape, man. Like who's like the one guy where you're just like, that guy, he might be able to get it done against Usyk, or is it kind of hard to say? You got Dubois, you got Parker, they're about to fight. But Coley, I mean, obviously, we can say a guy like Deontay Wilder if you want to, Zhang, Jake Caballero. Like, is there any of those guys, or is it just like, nah, man, I don't think he's gonna be
You
beat.
know what, man? It's heavyweight boxing. Everybody gets hurt in heavyweight boxing. It's very hard to stay undefeated because they're so big and they hitting each other, and anything can happen. So Usyk is 37. I think Zhang and Bukoli will be good fights for him. Uh, the young guy, I forget his name. He was on the card, Moses something. He looks
Oh
like
yeah.
he's
Mhm.
pretty good, but he might be a little young, so they may not ever be able to fight.
Yeah.
Um, and you know something, man? I think that Usyk may be the kind of guy who fights bigger guys better, and he might have a problem with faster guys who are as agile and who have the stamina that he has. It's just a suspicion because I think his toughest career fight was against Maris Breedis, and he
Mhm.
was a cruiserweight. And I
Yeah.
can remember Michael Hunter giving them a tussle back in the day. So I think that the quicker guys may give him more trouble than the bigger guys. Some people are just like that. There's some great fighters throughout history who have an easier time with bigger guys. James Toney is one of them. I don't want to go back too far. I don't know how old you are, but there's a few guys like that. Roberto Duran, when he got older, if you were like a bigger guy and you try to knock him out, like the Iran Barclays and the Davy Moores, he had a lot of success with you. But if you use, once he got a little older, if a guy has some agility, like the Ray Leonards and Wilfred Benitez, they gave him more trouble than the bigger guys that was trying to knock him out.
Mm.
So I have a slight suspicion that Usyk is like that. So maybe it'll be a guy that's a little quicker. But Bacoli and Zhang, they're gonna be tough fights for anybody, But the problem with them is they'll get tired, and
Yeah.
he gets them in the late rounds, But they will have to put a lot of hurt on them. They will have to put a lot of hurt on them early to be able to beat them, because once the fatigue sets in, they have a tough time. And everybody's in love with big heavyweights, but you're not going to have great cardio if you're 280, 290 pounds, man. Your body's just lugging around too much mass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't see no distance runners weighing almost 300 pounds. It just don't work that way.
Yeah.
So, he just has a built-in advantage. That's why I don't like to compare sizes where it'd be like, well, Usyk fighting guys 50 pounds heavier than her, and then they want to compare Inoue and Crawford, because and I love Usyk. I think he's a special generational talent. But after you get so big, then the size works against you. It doesn't work for you anymore. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of apples and oranges comparison, because a guy 280, 290 pounds, he may be able to hurt you, but at a certain point of the fight, his energy levels drop off and he just can't hang with you no more. And
Yeah.
I think Usyk is just taking advantage of the fact that these guys don't have the cardio or the conditioning to deal with him. Tyson Fury has good conditioning for a big fighter, but he
Yeah.
can't hang with a 220-pound elite guy. He just gets tired when they fight. You could just see it. He's just fatigued and he's tired. When they started out real fast like that, they both came out. They was real like twitchy and they was like fainting a lot. I'm like, man, Fury doing a lot. That's going to be hard to match that energy down the stretch. You know what I mean? Usyk, you watch him train. He's always dancing. He's always moving. He fights with a good rhythm, man, and that's tough for a big guy to deal with.
Is Usyk officially, I mean, I don't know what you had him beforehand, but is he the best fighter in the world? Better than Terence Crawford? Pound for pound, like.
I think it's a 1A, 1B, 1C kind of thing with him, Crawford, and Inoue. It's real tough to say.
But who's 1A though?
Man, I want to say Crawford,
Mm.
but Crawford doesn't fight as much as Usyk and Inoue does, and you know they're he doesn't fight as often as they do. So when everything is close like that, it does start to, how often you fight starts to add up. Um, oh, man, it's tough. My guts tell me that if everybody was the same size and then relative to their height and reach to their prime weights, that Crawford probably would would be able to win against them too. I'm more confident in saying that Crawford could win against Inoue than I am Usyk. Usyk has something about him though that is just he got a serious clutch gene and the ability to adjust.
Mhm.
But I'll say Crawford, but it's really, really tough. And if anybody said Inoue or Usyk, I really couldn't or wouldn't argue hard. It would just be one of them things I'd be like, man, you got it. Like, it's not a hard argument with me. Like, it's so close in my mind that it's really 1A, 1B, 1C. But if you make me pick, I would say Crawford 1A, maybe Inoue 1B, and Usyk 1C. I know it's tough because Usyk just fought, but Inoue makes real good adjustments too. And I think that he's probably the most dynamic athlete out of the three.
Mhm.
Like as far as like speed, quickness, definitely punch delivery.
Yeah.
That Joker probably is the best puncher in the world. Um, so yeah, I know you like definitive pick. So Crawford 1A, Inoue 1B, Usyk 1C. But I'm probably wrong. I'm probably underestimating Usyk though, because he a fantastic fighter.
I'm not mad at that answer. Um, it's the boxing world and I mean sports in general, it's always about what have you done for me lately? A
Yeah.
lot of recency bias. So, like I'll look online now where people are just like, Usyk is top 10 fighter of all time now. and they're just like he's a top five heavyweight of all time. Do you kind of put him in that? Where do you put him in terms of all time greats with heavyweights and like all time pound for pound? Like, is he worthy of like those discussions, you think?
I think he is an all-time great fighter. All-time great fighters are usually in the top 100 ever of everybody. So I think he's firmly in there. I put him as a top two cruiserweight, as either him or Holyfield, whatever one you want to pick. And I don't want to go crazy with the top 10 heavyweight because I've never, ever, top five heavyweights, because I've never believed in big heavyweights. I didn't. Like, I don't, I think obviously you got to deal with the size and power of them. But anybody know anything about physical fitness, they know that at a certain size, you start they start working against you when you're talking about an endurance based sport. So I never really like bought into, oh my God, he's 270 or 280 pounds. I never bought into that. That kind of only works if you got a machine that's measuring punching and it's coming up pounds per square inch and stuff like that, or if you're standing right in front of the guy and letting him knock your head off. But I feel like a 220, 230-pound man is all you need, man, if you got physical toughness. So I never bought into that. I do think it's some heavyweights that'll give him some trouble, but I think he's in the mix, and I think that he can hang with any guy in any era. But I don't see him as a top five yet. I think his resume will have to get a little bit deeper, and we will have to see. But you know, he's definitely an all-time great, and I will put him as a top 10 or 15 heavyweight. I gotta look through my list and make sure I don't want to overstate nothing just because we just seen him fight on Saturday. But he's in the discussion. He could hang in any era. We just, I don't think the Klitschko era was great, but he could hang with both Klitschko brothers. Um, Before that, Lennox Lewis, Holyfield, Tyson, Bo, Abeabuchi, Tua. That would have been a rough era. I would like
Yeah.
to see how he would have did in that era. That's a killer
Sure.
era. I don't believe he will be undefeated in that era, but they ain't gonna eat him up. You know what I mean? He ain't losing to everybody.
No.
But I think that will be a tough era for him to overcome. That's like Murderer's Row. Obviously you got the 80s, Tyson, Spinks, Holmes. That era, I think he probably would do a little bit better in. And then you got the 70s with the Holmes, the Foremans, the Fraziers, the Alis, the Nortons. That's the best era of all time, in
Mhm.
my opinion. And he would fit in that era. Again, I don't think he would be undefeated, but he will he will win some and lose some. And that's how you know a guy is an all-time great, because you got to go back 40 or 50 years to find guys who can hang with him. You know what I mean? That's how you know that he's special. And he's his special fighter.
Gotcha. I agree with everything you said. I actually think he'd have a tougher time in the 90s as opposed to like the Ali era. I just think he'd have a tougher time in like the Lennox Lewis era, the the Riddick Bowe, those guys. Those guys that weren't like overly tall, but like you were saying, fast guys, strong guys, guys like that. I think he'd have like a hard time, but he might still win all of those fights too. But okay. So switching topics real quick to your guy Boots, man. So, you know, obviously
My guy, who?
Boots, Jaron Ennis.
Oh, I mean, he's not my fighter.
I mean, I know he's not your fighter, but when somebody's from Philly, I put you guys
Oh,
all together,
so you
man.
get okay. I got you. I got you.
So, I mean, there was the whole like quote unquote ducking allegation and stuff like that and whatever. And I know you know that fighters don't duck fighters necessarily, and
I never say fighters don't duck fighters, because fighters do duck fighters. There's guys that fighters know they can't beat, and fighters that that's not true. There's fighters who secretly hide behind the management and not fight. I just don't think it applies to him. I don't think that he's ducking anybody. I just think that he's you know, it's just a lot of things going on behind the scenes amongst his team, and they just trying to figure out who they could get in the ring. And he knows his days is numbered at 147. But I don't think he's like personally like saying, "Oh my God, I'm afraid to fight this guy." I just think there's a lot of things on the business side, that that's not flowing too smoothly for him right now in this, and he got a lot going on. But I don't really like to speak too much on somebody else's team. I get asked
Yeah,
about
no,
Boots a lot, and
we're
I'm
not
not
even gonna. Yeah, I'll just stop you right there because I'm not even gonna ask you about like if you think
okay.
you ducking or anything like that. Like
Okay.
that's nah, I'm not gonna put you in that type of situation. Come on,
Yeah,
I ain't gonna do it. But what I would like to know is there, boxing is unforgiving with the fans, man, and they
it
label
is.
it that, and it's kind of tough to kind of kind of battle past that a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
Is at 147 pounds, is there somebody like if with fighting like a Stanionis, a Brian Norman, maybe to a lesser extent, Mario Barrios, he just came off that draw, a Teofimo Lopez, would fights like that, would that kind of sway the public and just be like, okay, we rocking with you. We don't think that you ducked or anything like that. That's a good look right there, those fights.
Sure. I mean, his team just got to get those guys in the ring for
Hmm.
sure. If he get a unification against Brian Norman or a fight versus Mario Barrios, I mean, but every time I see Conor Ben and they keep talking about Mario Barrios, so I know it's some kind of conflict there when you got a guy that's in your promotional stable and one guy's trying to get him a fight, and then the other guy, I mean, you got a guy that wants to fight a guy, and then you got a guy who is in your stable and he wants to fight a guy. You know what I mean? Because you can't fight two guys at the same time.
Yeah.
So I know that that's tough. That got to be tough on Boots. Like for example, the if Conor Ben gets the Mario Barrios fight and Boots wants to unify, that's tough. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I want to fight what I want to fight. You know what I'm saying? Trying to say that's like a tough situation to be in if you're Boots, because he wants to unify, and then hey, can we pause this video and I come in and come out? I'm trying to grab something from one of my properties.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Do you
Okay,
think? Hmm?
I'm gonna come right back out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think?
All right.
Just in case, like hit the screen, just in case again. Like hit the screen.
I'm good. I got it.
Oh,
I'm good.
okay. All right, cool. All right. So yeah, don't worry. I'll make sure we X that part out anyway. So don't even worry. I got you. So yeah. So out of everybody at 147 pounds, those three guys rank like the toughest fights. Like, yeah, what do you think?
Out of
Champion out of the champions, yeah. Norman,
Norman, Stanionis, and Barrios,
yeah.
1 through 3, I would say Stanionis 1, Norman 2, Barrios 3.
Mm. Now, ironically enough, like I literally just spoke to Stanionis like maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, something like that. And he told me straight up like he wants that fight. He's hoping he gets that fight. What is it about Stanionis that makes you say that's the toughest fight for Boots, as opposed to like a guy like Brian Norman, who I mean he fights nothing like Stanionis. When I look at Brian Norman, he kind of has some of that like he kind of got some of that special shit. I think, like some of the stuff he
Um,
teach a little bit.
my opinion, just my opinion only.
Hmm.
Um, Norman is a little young. I'm
Yeah.
not saying too young, but I don't think he is as physically mature
Mm-hmm.
as Stanionis. I think he's still in his development stages. Um, I think that he was in a little bit of a performance slump until he won that fight. He was like looking a little funny in a few of his fights. So I think he's still developing at this point. I think the reason why he had to take that fight in the guy's hometown was because he wasn't really performing at the level that the quote unquote powers that be thought he should be performing at. So I do think that Norman is good. He got a lot of potential. He's a real good fighter, but he's a lot younger than him, and I think he's more still in his development stages. And Boots is just further along, in my opinion. Staniones, I seen him fight on Earl Spence
Against Ugas in
Ugas
Dallas.
card.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, and he's really cagey. He's really smart. I was in an elevator with him. He's very, very physically big to be a 147-pounder. I'm just talking about his muscle density. So
Yeah.
I think he'll be able to match strength with Boots. Obviously, he was at one time, I think he was trained by Ronnie Shields out in Texas.
Mhm.
So like he was getting in a lot of camps and stuff. And I heard some real, real good stories about him in people's camps. Like that guy got an iron chin. He's real strong. He got pedigree. Like I never heard a bad story about him. And Shelly Finkel don't miss often. So if he's investing in you, then you know that the guy is good.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that he has a little bit of an advantage over the other two. I think he got screwed over with. It's nobody's fault, because Virgil Ortiz got sick, but
Yeah.
he training twice to fight Virgil Ortiz and then not being able to fight. That kind of like,
It was actually 3 times.
okay, well, yeah, that's awful, man. Camps are expensive,
Yeah.
like to put your body through that and then not fight. So, uh, you know, he might be a little bit like stale, from doing that. So I don't know, but on their best day, I would say that Stanionis, then Norman, then Barrios.
Where does Tio fall in that same ranking? Would you put him above Stanionis, just beneath him, below Barrios, above? Like
At
where does?
147?
I mean, if he was to fight Boots, it'd have to be at 147.
Um, I don't know. I mean, Teofimo Lopez is a special talent, but I don't know how you're gonna look at 147 pounds. He's kind of short.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I really can't say. He's kind of hot and cold. I thought he struggled with Jermaine Ortiz and the other guy, um, but then he looked great against Josh Taylor. So it's hard to say with a guy like that. And I think he's, going to do good under Eddie Reynoso. Eddie Reynoso kind of does good with guys with his body type. He did good with Oscar Valdez, and he did great with Canelo Alvarez. So I expect him to do good with Eddie Reynoso. But um, it's kind of say. It's hard to say. I think he could possibly beat Barrios. Mario's my guy. I like Mario Barrios, by the way. This ain't nothing personal against him,
Yeah.
but he's just he's had some tough fights. He's probably not as physically talented as the other guys. So I think that Teofimo might can beat Mario, but I don't know what he would do with the other guys. There was talks of him fighting Brian Norman. I'm not sure what happened, but I
Hmm.
was looking forward to that fight. That would have been a good fight. But I think Boots is too big for Teofimo Lopez. The Jermaine Ortiz fight. If Boots just boxed and used his jab, he would just be too big for him. But that's why they fight the fights. Let them fight. I think that guys want to fight Boots a little bit now because Boots is the two decisions with Karen and he's fighting a little bit like in a bloodthirsty kind of style. He's trying to knock everybody out, and they see some holes in that, in this boxing. When you see a flaw, got it, all a fighter has to do is struggle in the fight, and then everybody wants to fight him.
Yeah.
But I feel like that those things could be corrected, if he just gets back to his boxing. And but let him make the fight. I'm not a matchmaker. I just want to see good fights. But I think Teofimo's a little too small for Boots.
Um, last topic. Pretty sure it's something that you've touched on before. Oh, we got a great fight February 1st, man. Morrell,
Oh
Benavidez, like
man,
that fight's
that
gonna be bananas.
that whatever the pay-per-view sales was going to be before, they just went up about 40% after the
It's
I
a
don't even know what
fact.
that was, press conference or media day. I don't know what it
Media
was, but
workout. Yep.
yeah, that was awesome, man. They're gonna fight. That's gonna be a brutal fight.
I mean, who would you lean towards? And are you kind of the same belief of like a lot of people where you just like, yo, Morrell is a really damn good fighter, but it's a little early for him to be fighting Benavidez.
See, I think that Morrell is physically mature. See, I think that he's more physically mature than what Brian Norman is right now.
Mhm.
When I was saying Brian Norman is a little young, I think Morrell is physically mature. I just don't know if he fights with the sense of purpose to beat Benavidez yet. You know, like he kind of like just overwhelms his opponents. He just kind of just comes downhill on them and just like beats on them. You know what I mean? They're just too small. They just can't be in the ring with him, and he just destroys them. That's basically what he's been doing.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to see him make a second half adjustment. I haven't had to see him fight a guy and not know whether he was winning after the sixth round. I never saw him, you know, not be in control of a fight. Even though he had a tough fight the last time, that was more of a guy just being pesty with him, and he was winning the fight. And the guy kind of like scraped his way back in the fight. There's a little bit of differences after 6 rounds, and you looking at your corner say, well, it's even, or you're down. You know what I mean? And he got to make the adjustment that we see Usyk make time after time. I'm not saying he can't make it, but I haven't seen him make it. And he's not as defensive as a lot of the Cuban fighters.
Yeah.
I think he's more offensive minded. And a lot of times the best thing you do, you become infatuated with that. And I'm picking Benavidez. I think Benavidez has a slight edge. I think Benavidez IQ and defense is better than people give him credit for. And in the war, the guy who's not getting hit is clean, you know, usually has an advantage. But listen, Morrell definitely has the talent. He definitely has the physicality. And just because we haven't seen him do the things I stated, it's not a criticism. I just can't give him credit for something that I haven't seen him do. He might have that in his bag of tricks, and he just hasn't had to use them yet. He's winning fights with what he's winning the fights with. He may not have to use his ability to adjust or box or keep away or take a guy's power away or take a guy's best punch away. He may not have had to do that, but he may be fully capable of it. We're gonna find out against Benavidez, but my pick is Benavidez. Probably by decision. You know, I don't know if he's gonna stop him. If he's gonna stop him, I think it'll be late because Benavidez is more of a wear down fighter. But I like Benavidez. I think Benavidez might be a generational talent. I think he got the ability to be special, and I think that his defense again and his IQ was underrated. Only thing I didn't like was that he looked kind of big for a fight February 1st. I was like, wow, man, he looked really big. Where Morrell kind of looked in shape.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe that's a body type thing. I'm not, you know, I didn't, you know, maybe it's just his body type. I don't know, but my eyes tell me I've been around David, and he did look a little big. I was like, damn, you know, they fighting February 1st. I thought he'd be a little bit slimmer than that, you know. So that's the only thing that gives me a little bit of a pause, you know, because he looked like he was about 210 pounds, maybe 200 pounds. I don't know. I don't know. But just the naked eye, he looked a little big for a fight February 1st. But he's a big guy. But I'm picking Benavidez.
Just to wrap it up, I mean, you've been in the gym a million times. I mean, you're on your way to the gym right now. So like you'll see your fighters and you'll see them, you know, you'll see them doing certain things like some of the stuff like you said about Morrell. Taking somebody's power away, being probably a little bit more, probably being more better defensively, more defensive sounded. But come like fight night, like how do you know as a coach when it's just like, all right, I know my guy can do all of this, but it's like it's a different animal when it's like under the bright lights. You know what I mean? Like, how do you get him to just, all right, man? Is it just training or is it just like a mental thing? Like, what do you do?
When I know a guy is right, one of the things that I look for is he doing things that we practice without me having to ask?
Mm.
If I see a guy doing things that we practice without me having to ask him, then I know his mind is clicking right and he's peaking and he's ready to go. And usually that should happen about 2 weeks before the fight. About 2 weeks before the fight, everything should start coming together if it hasn't already. You know, because the week of the fight, everybody thinks the week of the fight you don't do nothing. You do something, you just don't do it as hard.
Mm.
You know, so the week of the fight, you're going over the game plan, you watching video, you hitting a little bit of pads, you shaking out. but you could see that sharpness and the mind quickness and the processing ability. And but the week, 2 weeks leading up to the fight, you still sparring, you still doing everything. And if there's like a tendency in the guy or in the opponent, I meant, if it's just little things, you want to see your guy do something that you've been practicing without you at, like, let's just say, I'm just gonna say something really generic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you was practicing on a left hook to the body and you see the guy's a sucker for a left hook to the body.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks before the fight, you don't want to have to keep asking your fighter, hey man, where's that left hook to the body? We've been working on it all camp. You don't want to ask him that, because if you got to ask him that, then you like, things are not clicking off.
Yeah.
But and that's in those sparring sessions, if he ripping the left hook to the body and he's getting the angle on it and he's putting it sometimes inside the elbow, sometimes outside the elbow, sometimes he's pivoting on it, and he's doing all this stuff that y'all been working on the pads and the heavy bag, and he's doing it and it's coming off and it's coming off. You're like, yo, we ready to go. So that's one of my barometers. I like to it's kind of weird. I give my guys space the week before the fight, but I'm also around them. You know what I mean? Like we'll watch a little video, we'll talk,
Well,
because I think that's the mental part
you
of the
said
fight. That's the exercise.
you said the
Well,
week before. You said the week before the fight. Do you mean like fight week, or you mean the week before fight week?
no, like fight week. Like, say if a
Okay.
fight is on Saturday night and today
Mm-hmm.
is Monday. Let's say if you was fighting Saturday night,
Yeah.
like we gonna watch some film, we gonna shake out in the gym. We do a lot of talking, like okay. Um when Caleb fought Darrell, that was my first fight with him.
Mm-hmm.
So man, we got to New York. Man, him just went for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
We just went for a walk. We just talked. We talked about life. We talked about, some personal things, both, things that happened in both of our lives, and then I never forget, I said to him, I said, man, you better than everybody think you are. I didn't see you do some stuff in that gym. You look like, a white Roy Jones or a white Oscar De La Hoya, man. I said, you kind of conservative in your fight. And you don't, people don't see that side of you in your fights. But I seen it in the gym, because in that camp, he knocked a couple guys out cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why don't you let that shit go, man? Like, what's going on? Why are you so conservative in real fights? And he looked at me and said, Coach, I'm gonna let that shit go.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to have that talk with him. You know what I mean? Because, you know, um, fighters, they're human beings and they go through a lot of stuff. We just walked around downtown Brooklyn, just me and him, and we just was talking. So I like to do that with my guys before fights. I like to spend a little time with them if it's at the house or just, it's just certain things that you just need to see. Julian Williams was my first fighter. We'd be in the hotel. He'd knock on my door. I just want to talk. Like, what you see, what you don't see. Like, I just need to see certain things. Like, he always would want to know, what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? And I'd be like, man, I don't want to lie to you. We good. I don't see nothing I haven't seen. Or sometimes I'll be like, yo, I saw this. Karan Davis, he's a little bit different. He's a more laid back, carefree kind of guy. But his last fight with Elijah Garcia,
Yep.
I went to his room. He was zoned out. It was dark in there. He was sitting in his bed in there. I was like, "Ooh, man." I start calling people like, it's 10-1, put everything on him.
How
I'm
come I
not
didn't
lying.
get a
I'm like,
text,
put
brother?
everything on him.
How come
Whatever
I
you,
didn't get a text, man?
man,
Come
I haven't heard from you in a while. I tell you one thing, his dad bet 10,000 on him. I
God
said, bet.
damn.
I said, bet everything on him, man. Because we had a good camp. When I seen him in his room, he was just sitting in his bed. And I'm like, okay. Because I go to God's room, and it's something that I do to them before we go, like to get their body like real worked up
Mhm.
and get their body ready to go. So I went to his room and I did, my ritual, to get him like ready. And he was sitting in his bed in the dark with this look on his face like he just killed somebody. I'm not even exaggerating. I was like, damn. I didn't say nothing. I didn't bother him. I just said, I know what you're gonna do, man. So we did our thing, and I left and I seen him and he had like that attitude. He like that's like my son, man. So he kind of like looked at me like, "Don't you worry, I'm fucking this boy up." And I was like, I just was just calling my boys like, "Yo, put everything on Quran, bro. I
Mm.
got so many thank you." I was like, "Put everything on him." I was getting calls like, "It's 10-1. Is he in shape?" I said, "Put everything on him. I don't care. Whatever you got to spare, bet on him. Bet it. He gonna tear this boy to pieces."
Yeah.
And he did. So it's just things that you look for, man. It's hard really to quantify with words, but you know it when you see it. And getting around them is their personality, but in the gym, it's if they're doing things that you've been working on. Because a good trainer is going to create a certain kind of muscle memory in his guy throughout a camp. And you need to and you repeat that over and over in camp. And then the week of the fight leading up to it, 2 weeks before the fight, in the spar and everything, you need to be seeing that stuff. It doesn't mean he can't win. I'm not trying to jinx anybody, but it does mean that he's at a higher place. If you see that stuff that you're working on, that's like the fruits of your labor. You get to see it, and if you don't see it, then that means that it hasn't always clicked in.
Mm. Got it. That is the perfect way to end it. I really like that. I'm gonna check next time Karan's fighting, and I'm gonna shoot you a text, man. But nah,
he
man.
um he just got ordered to fight the eliminator with the IBF. So
Okay.
so hopefully we'll be getting some news pretty soon, and you know he's willing to fight any of the champions, but I think he's gonna have to go the mandatory route, and he just got the order with the IBF. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll have a date for him pretty soon.
All right. Well, you already know we're gonna chop it up about him very soon. Appreciate you taking the time, brother. Hope you have a good time in the gym, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Later.